I'm Jamie Carragher, and you are listening to the Pint podcast.
What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Pint podcast and Pod and a Pint episode 13. I'm Mick Moran, joined by Harry Robinson. How you doing, lad?
Thank you for having me.
Well, as you can see, we've changed. We're not by the dartboard anymore. We're by in the other corner. So I just thought this is like the sun. While the sun's shining, it might go a bit dark in a bit. It might be a bit cosy, but for now the light's shining, so it's all good. Nice little setup. Yeah, nice little setup. So I just thought let's take advantage of it. But yeah, nice one for jumping on, lad. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's an honour that you asked me, so thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah, and I was saying to you before we started recording that you're the first non-Liverpool fan on the show. So
when you asked me, I did.
That was your first response.
That was my first one. I was like, you do know that I'm not, because you know, with kind of the Pint brand, it does seem like it's a requirement.
Well, but I think for like general. Because we obviously do like match reviews and match previews and all that stuff. Obviously, you've got to have someone who's watched the match, otherwise it's pointless. But like with stuff like this, I do want to. It's predominantly going to be Liverpool fans, but I don't want it to be like just. I don't want to be shoehorned into that. I want people to come on who obviously you live here and stuff, and you know people that support Liverpool and stuff. So
yeah,
that's the point, basically.
And I mean, I'm a first generation Wigan fan. Like my dad's a Liverpool fan. My dad used to go home and away, watching Liverpool around Europe and all sorts, and then moved down south a bit. I think gave away his season ticket and then couldn't get a season ticket when he came back up, but he got one to Wigan because Wigan was the cheap season ticket when we got up to the Prem. So I grew up watching Wigan, and then I'm a big believer in support your local and support the team that you can support. So my dad bred me into a Wigan fan despite the fact that he's a Liverpool fan. So
that's fair enough. And we were just, you might as well talk about this now, like the link to. I called him Paul Glatzel, but you've told me it's Paul Glatzel. And obviously, if you're into like Liverpool youth players back in the day, you'll know that name, and you know him quite well.
Oh no, Paul's my best mate. Paul's like, you know, we go on holidays together. All that kind of stuff. He's smashing it in Swindon, and I mean, a lot of the time I'll go watch Swindon more than I do Wigan most of the time. At the moment, because I'll go see him. But yeah, no, I used to go around watching him at. Mainly under 18s when they won the FA Youth Cup. He was the captain, and that was kind of like the era of Nico Williams was obviously doing very well. Yasser, who's now at Sheffield United, I think still. When they were playing in the kind of Europe Youth League or whatever, that was kind of Curtis Jones kind of coming up and stuff like that. So it's quite funny seeing that, you know, what Curtis Jones is doing now. So ironically, I was going to Anfield, you know, when I think they played the semi-final against Watford of the FA Youth Cup at Anfield. So I was going to Anfield on like games, essentially sitting in the home end, but
supporting your mates basically.
But I was support. I mean, you want the team to do well because he's part of the team.
Oh yeah, of course.
But it's weird watching a team when you're supporting a player. That's how I imagine. You know, there's people that have like Messi and Ronaldo Twitters.
Just fanboys.
Because if Paul gets taken off, like I lose my
the pub.
I lose my kind of love for the game. At that point.
The reason you're there is not there anymore. So why?
Exactly. Yeah. But like, he's done amazing for himself, and he like certainly back then when we were going around, like we would go into like Chester's ground for him to play, like, because obviously no one uses their real ground for the youth team. Like it was always like we were going to all over the gaff watching kind of youth football. I went to Belgium to watch him play for Germany under 18s at like Belgium's FA. So yeah, no, I had great memories of going around watching my mate.
Yeah, because when you said his name, I was like, I'm sure that just like reverberated in my mind. I was like, I recognise that name. And obviously, like we just spoke about him a bit more, and I realise who it is. But we're going to get on to that in a bit more detail. Obviously, the Wigan connection and all that stuff in a bit. But as we always do, opening question. And I've started doing it where we had a discussion about this beforehand, so obviously Harry's prepped, because if I sprung it on you, then it'd be a bit more difficult for you to just get it off the top of your head. But yeah, so in 2025, top 5 things that you've watched that can be basically whatever you want, films, TV shows, whatever.
I mean, so I'm a filmsman. Like I don't watch much telly. Like we do the Film Club podcast with Have a Word, and like that was a big catalyst that I wanted to do to make me watch more films. Like I want to watch about 100 new films this year. In terms of my kind of top 5, watched Interstellar the other night for the first time. That's a film and a half. That's
unbelievable.
Well, that's one we've got for Film Club coming up, and the lads couldn't believe that I watched it. And it shocked me. It hurt afterwards. Yeah. And the fact that the film is practical as well. Like when he's in like the, you know, like later on, there's stuff that you would think is CGI, and it's all it's mad. Interstellar's certainly up there. But
I think, and that's one as well. I think that people always say, watch this, and then you don't, because you can't be asked, because their perception of it may be elevated to a level, and you're like, it's not going to meet your standards of what I'm expecting now, but it does, and more. And not enough was talked about it, I think, when it came out. I think it was undervalued when it came out. Definitely. So Interstellar's one, definitely. We went to watch We Live in Time with, me and my missus went to watch it with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, and I've not seen that one yet.
I was hungover. It was Adam Rowe's birthday the day before, and I was hungover, and I sobbed that entire. And I'm not even a big crap. That film was, like, in the best way, it was beautiful. But like, that is, don't ever watch it after a drink. That's not a Sunday film. Do you know what I mean?
While you're on the edge.
Yeah, that was like, and before we watched Baby Girl, which is like the kinky film. It's like they didn't add up at all. Anora, which is one of my favourite films of all time, won the best picture. That's certainly up there. Same with Conclave, which was also nominated. And I really like Better Man. You know, the Robbie Williams one where he was a monkey.
Right, I've not watched that yet, just because people have been saying it's weird and all that.
It's bombed at the box office, but reviews-wise, it's great. But Americans didn't watch it because they didn't know who he was. Yeah. People thought because he was a monkey, they just kind of shunned it. But that is like a great biopic, and you forget that he's a monkey after a couple minutes. So it's all right.
Weirdly,
that's probably my top 5.
All right, there's a few good shouts there if you want some recommendations. Yeah, I think the Andrew Garfield one and the Robbie Williams one, I think I wanted to see them both, but it's just one of them, like,
once they're at the cinema, you kind of lose them a little bit. It passes you by.
Yeah, and I just haven't. But yeah, I definitely want to see the Andrew Garfield one. I've not really thought about the Robbie Williams one because I just thought it was a bit of a joke. But
it's great.
If you're given a recommendation, then I'll take it.
I mean, it's also not, because you think of it as like this kind of like children's film almost, because he's a monkey. But like, he's a monkey like snorting stuff up his nose off the film. So like, you know what I mean? It's a bit. It's got an edge to it.
It's not PG in that regard. I've got a few, because you said obviously you're not a telly fan in that regard.
I'd love some TV recommendations.
But I think maybe the ones that are like massive now, I think, is Severance. I'm sure you've heard people talking about Severance.
Yeah, that's one that I would love to get into.
Apple TV, that's just like, I think that's class. Then there's Slow Horses, which is also on Apple TV. Mm-hmm. And there's another one called Silo, which I don't know if many people wouldn't, I'm sure they will, but like it's not as like been pumped up as those other two. And I quite like it just because the premise of it is just a bit mad. Like, they all live in like a silo, and like the levels that you live on, you do like bits, and you're all cocooned in this like bit. You can't go outside. If you get asked to go outside, you die basically, and all this stuff. Which I just think like the premise of it is quite like weird, but like the storylines interweaved into it are quite good as well. So I'd recommend that.
Oh no, I'll give it a watch. Let's see.
Well, Apple TV. So if Apple TV want to give me a fucking
sponsorship,
go for it, because they're all off that. But that it was worth when I got me new Mac. I got like, you know, the free Apple TV for like 3 months or so, and I was like, I'll give it a go. I've never really went on Apple TV, and it was like they were the top 3. So just
I know Severance is meant to be great.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird but good.
I think that's all practical effects as well. Like kind of, which I don't know. I feel like too much CGI pulls you out of it a little bit.
Yeah, so, definitely.
I'll give it a watch.
Let's get stuck into the. Well, obviously, we're going to talk about Liverpool in a bit, and we might have a little quiz at the end. But yeah, you work for Have a Word podcast. Like, how did you I know you were like doing stuff before that, obviously like journalism stuff and all that. But how did you kind of get into like that world then?
I mean, I always say I'm the luckiest person in the world in terms of how I work. Because I went to uni for journalism and made a couple like student documentaries and stuff like that I sent out to kind of film festivals. But whilst I was at uni, I was always sending questions in to have a word, because I started watching from early on, and I found it like this kind of past. I treated it almost like a comedy jukebox a little bit. Like I never asked questions that I was bothered about hearing the answer to, but I was asking questions about that I'd want comedians that I like to make jokes of, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And then fast forward however long, I was told, oh, there's a job for you if you want it. When you finish uni, and then I finished uni, and like truthfully, it's going to sound slightly big-headed, but with all the kind of documentary stuff I'd done, my department was blowing a lot of smoke up my arse essentially and being like, you know, you're going to walk into a job. But I'm epileptic, so at the time I couldn't drive like I can now, but at the time I wanted a job in telly, and you couldn't get a job as a runner without a car. Yeah. Even though I was probably, according to people that I spoke to, overqualified to be a runner, they wanted people who'd earned those stripes, but I couldn't because I couldn't drive. Yeah. So I was sat in my, like was going to have word part-time after uni to dip in a little bit. Yeah. But a couple months after uni, I was like, I don't know what. I had a degree that was useless because I couldn't drive, and I was told that I was going to be up here, and I was in limbo a little bit. And then fast forward 2 years or whatever, I'm now like producer at Have a Word. So it's worked out with me. Like it's just kind of grown into this fully fledged like full-time job. And again, I'm the luckiest person in the world, and I love the people I work around and what I do for a job, and it's amazing. But it stemmed from just a mad like punt, I guess. Yeah. And I'm grateful for what I did at uni, my degree, but the degree certainly didn't get me, you know, being a professional knobhead like on a podcast. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think most people would agree that like working there is, well, you just recording stuff and just having a chat.
It's just a mess around all of the time. It's the best job in the world, and it's daft. Like it makes no sense, and especially when you speak to like older people who don't understand the format, like the idea of podcasts or whatever, trying to explain that it's a job. You know, they think it's like this weird like hobby that I'm doing.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's not a real job, yeah.
It's like, this is what I put all of my time into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know, boss. And I was looking on like, you know, I used to do like research on like, the pod and stuff, and I was like, do a bit of research into you, and you lived in Oklahoma, and obviously like going back to like how you got into the word, into Have a Word and stuff, and like, so how come you ended up there?
So I studied abroad for a year. It was through uni. Oklahoma's probably the best journalism uni in the world. I originally had applied to go to Pittsburgh because it looked like American Liverpool. I was like, that looked familiar, but it's in America. And they pulled out due to COVID, but Oklahoma didn't believe in COVID. So so went to Oklahoma for a year, but it was the best thing that could have happened was me getting kind of like moved to Oklahoma instead. And like that was the journalism I got to do that. I went to an execution that ended up getting stopped at the last minute, but there was this huge controversial like death penalty thing going on, and I was lucky enough to be there like reporting on camera, like live telly and stuff like that. It was the best, one of the best years of my life, certainly. Like the skills I learnt there was just insane. I put on loads of weight, the food was like
yeah, I should imagine. Yeah.
But that was also that kind of coincided with when I started, like Have a Word started asking me to be involved with the prep and like collating people's questions. So I was doing that to earn money back home whilst I was doing my degree, or like doing whatever, like my year abroad in Oklahoma. Yeah. So it was just the perfect, like everything was perfect. I went to about 13 different states in the end of it. You know, traveled around, went to like film festivals and stuff. Yeah, it was unreal. Had a couple tornadoes hit as well whilst I was there.
That's the only thing about going over there in like those areas, because you know, like that's just part of the furniture, isn't it? Like,
we had 2 or 3. One of them though was like going straight for the uni and then kind of turned away. But the sky went green. It's the craziest. The sky goes green and then it's like a disco. It's just like flashing loads. and we were told to go into like the bunker, which is like it was like a basketball court, but it just had no windows. But we stayed out. Me and my mate Adam stayed out in the rain with our camera to film it for the student news, and they were fuming at us because like we just put ourselves in the path of a tornado filming
just to film it.
Yeah, they weren't happy. I mean, the news was the student news was buzzing.
Yeah.
But the people who ran like the safety in the buildings were.
But it's like tornado chase, isn't it? Like you're only going to get to see what it looks like by risking.
Yeah,
like,
no. It's,
obviously not the same level because they're driving into it and all that.
Yeah, like, I knew a couple of people that it's not worth it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the recent film, like speaking of films, like the film Twist. Obviously it was a remake in it, but like the way they just drive into like Twist, like tornadoes.
That was all because that's all filmed in Oklahoma as well. Because the car from the first one and the machine is in the uni.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Just chilling in like the meteorology department. So
crazy.
It's just like Tornado Alley.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah, not for me that. It's too dangerous for me that. I mean, we could talk about Have a Word all day, but you're repping the Mad Dat merch, which is class. Newest venture. Like, do you want to explain to everyone? Obviously, I know what it is, but like, do you want to explain to everyone who might not have seen it yet? What
I mean, Mad Dat, which is available to watch for free on YouTube if you're interested, is it's a kind of journalistic podcast. It's under the Have a Word umbrella, but it's me and Carl from the podcast. We'll get guests that are former cult members, or we've got a head of hate preacher, former KKK member, former Scientologist. We had Joe Exotic, which was the big kind of guest from season 1, from prison over the phone. So and that all stemmed from me and Carl we talked about it. I mean, I used to do these kind of interviews when I was like 18, 19, 20. Over Zoom in uni anyway. Like I did like an ex-spy and stuff like that, and loads of former cults were like my weird niche that I got into. And I was talking about it with Carl, and Carl was like, we should just start one. And that happens so often that I have a word like some idea will get thrown about and then it not, because we try and spin so many plates, so many ideas get thrown out and then they don't happen.
Of course, yeah.
So I kind of assumed it was something like that, but I was so excited by the idea. And then we came in the next day and me and Carl had a list of all these people that we wanted to get. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we'd built a set. We paid for, this carpet sign that looks amazing. And then after a couple months later, we'd filmed the whole first season. And that's like when I was 15, 16, as a lad trying to do journalism, and I was interviewing sports people and that kind of stuff. That was my dream, was doing something like that, or something like documentaries. So then to end up at 24 doing like that as my job, proper dream come true kind of stuff.
Well, that's quite a juxtaposition though, isn't it? Like going from because I've done like interviews with like sports people, and like you're not getting like proper and little bits of gold usually, like in terms of like stuff that, like obviously the one I mentioned before we started recording is the Greg Caden one, which he talks about like Tupac and Biggie, and you're like just like going in like the homicide detective, and he's like talking about like what happened and what went down and all that stuff like that. Where
you're not getting that from Neil Mellor.
That's it. Shout out to Neil Mellor, what a guy. But yeah, it's not quite the same as like little like golden gems from like someone who's been involved in like something that everyone in the world knows about.
Do you know what the first person I ever interviewed was Tony Bellew. That was in the lead up to his David Hay fight. And my dad was the first one when he was hot property. Yeah. And my dad was like, get in touch with why did you get in touch with Tony Bellew? And I was like, why would he? I was 16 at the time, I was in secondary school. And I was like, why would he try and speak to someone like me? Maybe he was 50 and something. And he was like, my dad was like, well, if he doesn't respond to the email, then
you just do it.
And within an hour, he responded to the email, and then we did a little interview, and then I did Ricky Atton, and then I was kind of doing stuff like that, and then I was interviewing sports people, and then I interviewed someone who survived the Jonestown massacre.
Oh wow.
Called Laura Johnston Cole, who's not with us anymore, but she's just a fascinating woman. And she gave, I was so underprepared for that interview. I was 16, in a background of doing kind of, very average interviews with kind of sports people, to like this heavy topic. Like, she cried on the phone to me. She didn't have to share all of these kind of traumatic stories with me, and I owe her the reason that my trajectory went like that, and then I took this interest in cults and started doing, you know, every lad goes to uni when they do journalism, and nearly all of them do sports as that kind of stereotype.
Yeah.
And I was in this other corner doing like, I was knocking on doors of cults in Manchester and, like, and filming them. Like, so, but that's the kind of stuff that got me noticed as well, and that's also the kind of stuff that
it's a niche, innit? Like, and it's not like it's not like it's not like you're driving down that alley because it's a niche and because you know it's going to do well. Yeah. It also helps that you've got an interest in it as well.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it, and it's like it's also the best icebreaker. But I always maintain that before those kind of interviews, I didn't really have, you know, I'm just Harry. But like, I've got like my missus now, like we met on Bumble. Like I remember going for a coffee with her and being like, one of the first things I dropped her was like, right, you know, I know some cult people. Like, you just like slide that in there.
Yeah. See how she reacts.
So, you know, we're still together now, so it must have done, it must have done bits.
She's into the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's, I don't think, and it will never not get interesting as well.
Yeah.
There's an unlimited kind of wealth of topics to delve into that I'm never going to get bored. Whereas I know of people that have, you know, who are now very successful journalists in like politics and stuff like that for the BBC, who started out in sports and kind of lost the will to do sports journalism. Yeah. There's some great sports journalists who have that fire in them, but some people lose. I think I would have been one of those people that lose it quite quick because I love sports, but not enough. I'm the kind of person that I would have resented making like Wigan reporting my job.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be I want Wigan to be my pastime, or I want football to be my pastime, or I want the UFC to be my pastime. I don't want to have to monetize what I like. I guess.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's kind of like what. Obviously, I'm doing like a podcast about Liverpool, but I don't know.
I've just realised that sounded like I was trying to
but like,
you out.
No, but I know what you mean completely, because I sometimes feel like I'm. Like if obviously like one of the bigger like fan channels offer me a job, I'd say yeah, obviously. Yeah. But I quite like that. I don't have to do it as and when. I can just do it when I want.
Well, and also there's obviously the level of passion that you have to create this and to do this so often. Whereas I think me inside myself, I would struggle to have that passion. I have a huge passion for Wigan or for even like the UFC or whatever. But is that passion strong enough to have my work and my pastime be the same? I don't think my brain works that way. I think I need lanes to switch into, otherwise I go insane. That's
me, because then you can't, like you said, there's no other lane to switch to. If that's like, if you're stuck in there, then like where's your outlet?
Absolutely, because then you've got to find. It's the same way. Like I speak to comics now, and I'm very fortunate. I get to speak to comics. You know, in a friendly way, you know what I mean?
Like in person.
Yeah, and be matey with all these kind of comedians. And you know, loads of them have, like, comedy always started out as their pastime and hobby, but then they're having to find like stuff to do outside of that now, because now it's also their job. And it's also a job that they love. But there'll be loads of people like me who will need that outlet aside from the job that they love.
Yeah, because I think the one that that resonates with what you just talked about was the Russell Howard pod that was Have a Word, where he was talking about like he was doing stand-up, but now he just wants to do like the podcast stuff, because it's like a nice change, and it's like he's not having to, like, obviously he'll probably still do shows, but it's not quite the same level of like you can just do a pod whenever he wants.
Yeah, there's also not a kind of forced nature of having to do the gigs. Like he doesn't feel like he has to be there. He's there because he wants to be there. I think that changes the
that makes a difference though, doesn't it? Of course, massively. And you mentioned like Joe Exotic and that, and like the Greg Caden one was absolutely amazing. Like some of the clips, and then I kept seeing like obviously on your like Twitter page or X page, like sport, like Lad Bible would like pick up stuff.
Yeah, Lad Bible went through a streak of picking up nearly every single one. Like they'd find some sort of story. Some of them, the Greg Caden one had about 3 or something, or 2.
Really?
And then we had one with I'm Just Bait put up like a big slide of the Joe Exotic one, and our heads fell off. I remember it coming through that they'd done this thing and getting all these notifications, and it was like I had people messaging me from school that had spotted it that I hadn't spoken to in ages, and they were like, "That's mad." That's when that kind of resonated with me. It was like what me and Carl had built was quite something. Like I'm the worst person ever for trying to like toot my own horn. Like I hate doing it, and I hate trying to big myself up. But that's the one thing that I kind of sit back and go, "God, I'm proud of that."
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, definitely. No, I think that's like, I don't know, I think in like this type of environment, in like this sphere of like doing stuff, I guess you've got to, I don't know, like have confidence in yourself, but you don't want to be to the point where you're going like, this is the best podcast ever, watch it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like for this show, like for example, I'd never be like, oh, please watch it, oh, please. I'd just be like, I always go, watch it if you fancy. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to like force people to watch something that they don't want to or whatever, or like just like they feel sorry for me or whatever. It's one of them, isn't it? Like,
well, you also got to big yourself up, but that's not in my.
That's what I mean. I'm not that type of person as well to do that.
I remember we won an award for one of the documentaries when I was in Oklahoma, and I came back, and it's the very American way of like the teacher like made me stand up and was like, "Well done to Harry" or whatever, and I was almost unintentionally rude in my response. I was like, "Oh, it's nothing."
Yeah.
I just kind of sat down and like stunted it, but it was just because I couldn't handle.
And they couldn't understand why you did that.
Yeah, because I'm not going to stand there and be all like this. It's not.
Yeah.
And I just felt really like kind of socially awkward. But it's a weird combination because it's like to be that level and then also want to be in media doesn't work. Yeah. You've got to work, like, I don't know, find that middle ground,
like a balance of it,
or work on that side of it, which I think I have a little bit. Although I still don't like to toot my own horn. I think that's why Carl likes to toot my own for me. That sounds like a sexual innuendo.
If you've got like a little sidekick that can do that,
I would never say he's my we're equal. I would have a brand
co-host.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a little co-host that can do the same for you. That's not me talking down Carl, by the way. If you watch this, like I'm a massive fan of yours.
I mean, that podcast also doesn't happen without Carl. His way his brain works and the way it's so different to mine, and the questions that he asks that. When I say normal people, I mean like people who haven't been kind of predisposed with kind of journalistic questions, or like how to ask questions. He asks the questions what the acquiescent majority of people want to find out, and it's that lovely sweet spot combined with that kind of journalistic questions.
Yeah, because he's like it's.
Oh, it's when he asks a question that's like it feels like he's just kind of thread the needle a little bit.
Yeah.
I sit there and smile because I'm like, I would never have thought of that, and it ends up with. Like we had like Shirley Phelps-Roper, who's like a hate preacher, and she was talking about how much she loves Barbra Streisand music. And I was like, that wouldn't have happened if Carl hadn't I don't know, grounded everything, I guess, and made things so real.
Well, it's asking the right question as well. Like obviously, like if you've got someone like Carl who can like, we see that in the Have a Word pods anyway. Like,
he's so intelligent.
Where he's just so switched on to stuff where he can just like throw something out and you go, like, especially if you two just sat there with someone who maybe doesn't do that many interviews or whatever. If you ask the right question and you get like this, like you can feel it in the moment. Like this can be like this clip's gonna be this. It's gonna do numbers. This, do you know what I mean? Just because like it's so niche in a way.
Yeah, I mean it's the easiest. It's the easiest like podcasting job, like to be next to Carl. I mean like sometimes it's hard when you're interviewing the person, but you know that I think we both know that we cover each other well.
Yeah, definitely.
And it. Yeah, we're very rarely kind of stumped or stuck.
No, it's good as a two as well, though, isn't it? Because if it's one, like, if you ask a question and they, like, it's just a bit of a shit, like, rebuttal or whatever, then you're like, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got two, you can go, well, I know where I'm going to go here. And you've got, like, trust in each other to kind of, like, overlap
absolutely.
in the same way.
Yeah.
Defo. Well, speaking about that, have you got any like, any teasers with any guests? Like, obviously, you just said you've done a block of season 1.
Yeah, so we're still working to kind of book season 2. What we're going to do, we're going to start doing a thing called Mad World, which is our kind of filler, I guess, but like we're putting a lot of passion into it, which is going to be me and Carl dissecting loads of different mad topics, which means that we're able to cover stuff that don't rely on a guest, because some guests are just either unattainable or dead, which makes them very entertaining.
Yeah.
So so we're going to be doing that whilst we're booking in kind of guests and filming it. I really want to get a kind of 90s level kind of ECW wrestler. You know, kind of like someone who was putting their life on the line, like for kind of hardcore wrestling, and was around when they were all doing steroids and stuff like that. I find that really interesting, especially because like, you hear so much stories about how toxic maybe the workplace was back then. I also find, and also like I'm a wrestling fan, so that's still interesting. You know, there's a couple of people that I've interviewed in the past that I wouldn't mind kind of wheeling out. Someone from Jonestown especially, potentially, but it's difficult because it's like a very traumatic thing to be asking people to dig out. And then we want to we're currently trying to speak, we're speaking to a couple of people, we're trying to get sponsors on board to fund us essentially going on location. Because I think that's the next level up, is us doing essentially mini documentaries or feature-length documentaries where we can interact in person with people in America rather than having to try and do it over Zoom.
I mean, it still works. Like when you do, like when you talk like to these people who obviously like miles away in America, it still works. Because the setup you've got. But if you've like, we could do it like this, where like someone random sat opposite like this would be amazing.
Well, it's also doing what they're like. When I did a documentary in Oklahoma and was with some black supremacist kind of preachers, and I went preaching with them. I mean, I wasn't doing preaching, but I was stood with them while they were preaching and stuff like that. It changes the dynamic completely. You're in their like their home territory, I guess, and it paints a better picture than you can do with conversation. I think if you're doing conversation whilst things are going on, it's just a bit more exciting, I guess. But you know, that's probably where me and Carl get shot or something like that, and then that ends.
nah, don't be saying that, lad. And yeah, just final one before we get stuck into the footy stuff, because I know this is what the podcast is. We need to talk about Wigan and Liverpool and all that stuff. Who would your dream guest be if you had to pick one?
Louis Theroux's certainly up there. That's my almost go-to answer, to the point where it's become hack a little bit. But like, that man is my idol in terms of like, he's the reason I got into journalism. He's the reason I wanted to do the kind of journalism that I did. I've seen everything he's ever done, so that kind of stuff. I mean, on the flip side, I'd love to do something with like this cults in like parts of Africa that I feel like are untouched, or even like, you know, certain kind of religious tribes that aren't cults, that I'd love to delve into, because it's such an uncovered kind of realm. But we prioritise Western culty stories
like
because of like Hollywood.
Like no one knows anything about it, really. And
especially like, you know, kind of in terms of little religious groups in parts of Africa or Asia or stuff like that. There's never any coverage of it, and I'd find that so fascinating, because it's also then a cultural thing of being exposed to another culture and being fascinated and kind of enlightened a bit more with that. So I mean, that's kind of broad topic, but that's one that's been stuck into my head that I'd love to travel.
I mean, like it's just like these like far distant tribes, like it's getting there as well, isn't it? Like, because the limit to my knowledge on like stuff like that is Carl Pilkington, Idiot Abroad. You know, when he goes to like these places and he's getting on like 2 planes, and he's getting another little plane, and he's getting another little plane, and he looks absolutely fucking shattered, and then he's got to go and like do a little dance with a skirt on and that. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, I think he went to the Amazons, like kind of Mayan, the kind of Mayan tribes or whatever in like that part of like South America. I think that's fascinating, because that's a culture that is so old, and in fact it's still knocking about, whereas like people have like, you know, iPod Nanos now. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the future. That'd be interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, there's plenty. I mean, that's the thing, because when you're in like those like niche areas, you're not going to really run out of niches.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of like weird and wonderful places that you could possibly go, especially like you say, if you want to start going like to locations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then that's just like let's just pray like Harry and Carl don't get shot, like you said. Like, let's just, if the pod's coming out, they survived. That's the main thing.
Or we've paid someone to sort it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's going out either way.
Just get it on film that you like paying them and that, and you'll be all right. But yeah, let's talk about the Reds and Wigan a little bit then, because obviously we've mentioned that you work for Haverware and stuff, and Adam and Finn, who I've had on the pod before, are massive Reds. So they're presumably like off camera talking about Liverpool all the time.
Do you know, we don't talk about football a lot on the podcast, and we scratch that itch by talking about it a lot before we start recording.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, like a lot of times it's world football, but especially like where Liverpool's at now, where they're going to win the Prem. Like there is a consistent. I mean, maybe more a couple of weeks back when it was like a bit more in the air. Now it's almost like a bit of a certainty. But yeah, there'll be a lot of kind of Liverpool and Everton chat, obviously with kind of Carl and Steve at the workplace, who are big Evertonians. Yeah, and I just chip it. Like I'm, do you know what I mean?
You've got a nice middle ground.
No one ever cares about what we're going to do. I mean, what we're going to do at the moment isn't very interesting, bar the fact that we've got a new manager. So like, yeah, but it is a lot of kind of football chat, and it's the same when we go if we go to the pub, especially when we're on tour and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of kind of football chat.
Because the match is always on, so like you're going to have to find somewhere to watch the match, or Pint's watching it and all that.
I think we watched the Everton Palace game in Dublin, in like a big bar in Dublin, and my missus is a big Everton fan, so football's always a constant, but we try and not talk about it a lot on the podcast, as to not alienate people who aren't bothered about football. Of course, yeah. But it's ever present in the studio, definitely.
I know, and especially with the Haverware like niche, if you like, is like not. Obviously, there's footy like interweaved in there, because everyone knows like Carl's a big Everton fan, Adam's a big Liverpool fan, and so's Finn. Yeah. And obviously you're a Wigan fan and stuff, and Dan's like stuck in the 90s or whatever. He's a
closet Watford fan, really, but he's an NFL fan.
Yeah, like, so I mean, he's not really into footy in like the same way.
Certainly not. He grew up as a Watford fan, but he's a Saints, New Orleans Saints. I mean, he's a general NFL fan as well. Like he cares about what's happening, and he's so knowledgeable. I brought some mates to the tour show in Scotland who are all big NFL fans. Like they were in Oklahoma with me, and the level of NFL chat that they had, like it'd be like being in the pub and you've got two like people talking about kind of like XG and getting right into the nitty gritty. Maybe not XG, because it's a bit more kind of like obvious now.
The minutiae of stuff like that.
Yeah, right into the nitty gritty of stats and obscure plays and stuff like that. And it was watching people be passionate about it was interesting, but and I'm an NFL fan, but it all went over my head really, like a lot of it, because they were getting far too advanced for me. Yeah. So he stays away from the football a little bit.
But what I love though is like sometimes he knows like the 90s or like the noughties like players. Yeah. So like if someone brings up, I don't know, Kasaragi, he'll know who that is. It like stops at like a date, doesn't it? And I quite like that.
If you go to 90s football, he's knowledgeable.
Yeah, because every time someone mentions it, he just goes, oh yeah, I know him.
Dan knows his stuff. Yeah. Whereas like that's one that kind of, because I was born in 2000 or whatever, like 90s football is one that goes over my head a little bit. Bar the kind of obvious, kind of icons. The big ones, exactly.
No, but I love that like someone's got that obviously loved it for stage, and then just thought, nah, I'm stopping here. Yeah, they've retained all that knowledge to a certain level, but they just don't know. They probably obviously still know bits about like recent stuff, but they don't know it to the same level they did before. Yeah, I think that's fascinating as well. They didn't know if anything before '99. Yeah, sounds. I mean,
to be fair though, I know loads of people that are just in the Barclaysman era of the Prem. It's like they don't go past
Barclaysman, yeah.
They don't go past that level. They're like, this is when football was the best. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, that's definitely it's funny. But yeah, like, how have you thought the Reds? Obviously, you said about like Liverpool, like looks like we're gonna. I don't want to say certainty because I don't want to jinx it and whatever, but it looks like we're going to win the league this season.
It is going to happen. I mean, it would be, I'm not bothered about jinxing it, so I can say
you can say whatever you want.
But it would be, it would be a shock if you don't win it by a bit of a distance as well. Do you know what I mean? Like it's such a surety now, and I think it's great for football. If you'd asked me when I was like growing up in secondary school, I wanted Liverpool to not win because I'm surrounded by Liverpool fans who didn't go to the game, and I was a Wigan fan that go to the game all the time, and they'd give me stick for being a Wigan fan.
That's fair.
But like,
No, I can understand that.
But I think it's great for football. I mean, Man City not winning the league is fantastic for football.
That's the main thing.
But I think Liverpool winning is great for football. I think the fact that Slot's done it in his first season is great for football because you just assume there to be a drop-off. There's almost this weird kind of post-Sir Alex effect that happened at United, that when someone is so ever-present at a club like Klopp and has such a stamp on the club, you almost assume that Liverpool are going to bomb this year.
Yeah.
Like, even Liverpool fans weren't confident they were going to win the league in Slot's first year.
No way.
But the football is great, and yeah, I think it's great. And also, as I've got older, I've seen my dad be more invested in, because I was always watching Wigan games with him, and him enjoying the Wigan games, but he's never been as invested as he is when he's watching Liverpool now on telly, because he doesn't get to go to games often without a season ticket or whatever. But like, I'd like it for him as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, Liverpool are absolutely smashing it, like you said. Like, especially like United, like post like Fergie, and then there's like Arsenal post Wenger. There's two big like case studies there where people look to and go, Klopp's going to leave and something similar's bound to happen.
Yeah.
And the fact that it hasn't, people are like, what's going on? Like, where's the drop-off? Like that, and that's kind of like, it's bamboozled everyone. But I think for us, as Liverpool fans, it was more like, maybe like a top 4 push, but the fact that we're like where we are now, it's just like, it's beyond our wildest. Even going out to the Champions League was a killer. Obviously, we haven't talked about that on the pod yet, but like, it's having like the knowledge that we're so close to the Premier League, and there's obviously a cup final on Sunday. Whereas if you said start of the season you're going to win the Carabao, but oh yeah, by the way, you're also going to win the league, you'd be like, no chance.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where obviously it's a killer, especially the way you went out on pens and stuff like that. But like, it softens the blow winning the Prem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I mean, it's a weird one as well, because as a Wigan fan, I always have the kind of mindset like, we have one major trophy in the FA Cup, and there's not a single thing I would trade that FA Cup for, and because of that feeling that I got, like I'm not a big believer that the FA Cup, the feeling of winning the FA Cup that I got is better than any feeling that any City fan has got from winning the league since, you know, they won it in 2012 or whatever, in terms of like, or 2012-13 or whatever. Yeah, 11-12, because, or certainly in the past couple of years, because it just becomes like they were expected to win it, whereas it was the best feeling ever. As a Liverpool fan, you won the league but didn't get that celebration. You got the joy, I guess, but because it was like COVID, it was all a bit stinky. You get that joy is still bottled up a little bit from the last one.
Definitely.
And it not that there ever was I've never believed in the idea that there's an asterisk there, because he was romping home with the league anyway at the time, but it does nullify all of that, which is quite, I like that. It ties everything up in a bow a little bit more as well. Yeah,
definitely, because I think there's people who are just chomping at the bit to like get out there, like people are talking about like parade days. I think it was 26th of May, I think people are saying it's going to be. I think that's like the same weekend as the BBC One Weekender, which is at like Sefton Park and that. Like, that's on the Friday, and then like the parade on the Sunday. Like, that's just going to be like insanely good. So bring it on. Obviously, it's not wrapped up yet, but we still need to do a job. But it's looking very good. And yeah, I was going to talk about certain crossover players between Liverpool and Wigan, obviously, because Wigan's your club, Liverpool's mine. But I don't want to give you some answers, because we're going to finish up with a little quiz.
Nice. I love quizzes.
A little quiz, and it's, so can you name me as many as you can of Liverpool players that have also played for Wigan, or vice versa? And I'd say in the last 30 years, because I had a look this morning and the list very long. I thought it was much shorter than that.
Yeah, so I mean also it's kind of my era, I'm going off the top of my head, so like...
I'll tick them as you go.
Yeah, well, Everton's always been the kind of semi-feeder, semi-partner club with Wigan, in that we swap players all the time. The obvious one's Emile Heskey.
Tick.
Which, in my opinion, may be the most underrated striker of all time.
What a player.
What he, you know, because KSI made him into a meme. What he did with kind of football, in terms of like how he would hold up the ball and that kind of stuff. So yeah, Emile Heskey, Scott Carson is also up there.
Yeah.
And then Chris Kirkland, who I've got to sign Chris Kirkland top at home. Like Chris Kirkland's one of my all, because I wanted to be a goalkeeper kind of growing up. That was my kind of idol, I guess. And then Adam Bogdan, if we're going off goalkeepers.
You've got three keepers.
Awful. Like Adam Bogdan as well was. I feel bad for him as well. He broke his leg or something, or tore something, and I was at the away match where he did, and the away fans cheered. Like it was sad, which I never think you should do.
No.
But it was rough.
I've chatted to Adam Bogdan on the pod before. He's a good fella, just because obviously there's the Hungarian connection with Zoboslai, when we signed Zoboslai. He always seemed like a nice, and also like I've got mates that were Bolton fans and they love him. Yeah. From when because he performed so well at Bolton against Liverpool. Liverpool signed him essentially. It was on the back of that kind of FA Cup game or something. But yeah, he didn't have a good run at Wigan. But also we were poor at that point. Then Victor Moses had a stint at Liverpool, didn't he? He did, on loan.
What a player. Was he a part of Chris Stamble?
I think he was, yeah.
That's my only memory of him.
Might be completely wrong, but yeah, he was just it was the loanee signing, and he just like it was probably like the level we were looking at the time. Yeah. Just because where we were at the time, yeah.
Stephen Warnock was former Wigan captain.
Yeah.
Went to my, I mean, I wasn't in the year with him, but he went to my school as well.
Oh, yeah.
In Ormskirk. There's also. See, I'm trying to think of we've got Luke Chambers at the moment.
Yeah.
Great, fantastic player. And then we also had Stephen Corker briefly. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
I mean, both stints were short, but he's memorable at Liverpool for playing up front, isn't he?
Well, he went up, yeah. We all remember him for the 5-4 against Norwich, where he went up front.
Yeah.
And Lallana scored like a 90th minute winner.
Yeah.
That's what we remember him for.
He was Klopp's first signing, wasn't it?
Yeah. One of the first. I think it was Greach was the first one, but he was definitely one of the first ones, I think.
Wigan signed him briefly when he was he had just declared for like Sierra Leone, like internationally.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and then we also had who's the right back? Martin Kelly. He was at Liverpool. Yeah. He played. Pretty sure he played one game for us, I think, and got injured in that game.
Yeah, I don't think he played many.
I think he certainly got injured in his debut, because I think he was made captain. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but he certainly got injured in his debut, and I can't remember how much. We're in a weird flow at the moment where we're just getting to mid-table obscurity, which is nice for the club to keep stability, but you don't realise how forgettable back ends of seasons start to become when you've had so many years of being either in a relegation scrap or winning League One or whatever. It's been fascinating. We had James Balagizi on loan.
Yeah.
He was on loan from Liverpool. Other than that, I don't think I can name any other players that have been on loan from Liverpool, but maybe I'm wrong.
Do you want me to go through the list that I've got? So this is this is the list that I wrote because I knew it was the last 30, 20 years.
Yeah. Is there any big ones that I'm missing?
I'd say the biggest one I would say a Stefan Hahn show, but that was like maybe like like your era, like obviously your era was.
It's one of those ones where that was when I first started watching Wigan. Was kind of, I would have called them henchos.
Henchos, yeah.
But like, that's when I first. It's one of those ones where like, I watched Stefan Henchos play. But I think you would have had me here a while for me to pull out that he also played for Liverpool. Like, I'm not sure. Is there any others that I've?
So you mentioned him before, Neil Mellor.
Oh, of course.
Neil Mellor.
I forgot about Neil Mellor.
They got Alan Kennedy yonks ago. So I'm getting all this from LFC history. So if it's wrong, blame them.
Yeah. I've met Neil Mellor as well. And Neil Mellor played.
He's a good fella.
There's a fella called Mark who used to put on these amazing charity matches. He was a Wigan fan, but he put on Wigan Legends versus one year he did LFC Legends. I'm pretty sure Neil Mellor may have played for both teams.
Yeah, he probably did, yeah.
But then like he'd do like Wigan Legends versus Everton Legends, and Martinez was playing in them. When Martinez was manager of Belgium at the time, he was playing in these charity matches, like insane. But and I met Neil Mellor and I interviewed him a little bit. But
and you said his name before.
I know. I think that's why he was probably in my head. Daft.
So there's other ones. Jermaine Pennant.
Jermaine, I've once popped into my head as well. But Jermaine Pennant, we got him. Jermaine Pennant was one of those ones where we got him as a free agent, like outside of the window.
Yeah.
And then he scored 2 identical free kicks against Rotherham, like unbelievable. And then one player that came to my head that we did have on loan was Shea Ojo.
Yeah.
I think went to go on to play for Cardiff or whatever.
Yeah, he's on the list.
Yeah. Did nothing for us, but we at a time when we had, I think he was at Wigan when Harry Maguire was also at Wigan on loan, and we had a stinky team at that point.
Yeah.
Like
that was a weird era for us as well.
We got relegated. But yeah, Shea Ojo. But I just remember him being dead fast on FIFA. And when he came to Wigan, I was like buzzing. Because I would have been like 14.
Yeah.
No, I would be about 15 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know why that's coming to my head when you've said Jermaine Pennant. But
No, that's, yeah. And then there's, also we've got David Thompson, we've got Jerome Sinclair, who was in the Liverpool youth.
Yeah, no, I remember. Was he on loan? Was he, I remember.
I don't know if he was on loan or because he kind of, I think he left us for Watford, I think.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That rings a bell.
I think he might have moved to Wigan around that time, I'm not too sure.
So we've had a couple stints, especially when we went like bust, where we were getting players on short little loan deals, or we were getting players that had kind of been around a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of bulk of these kind of newer ones are.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised because then there's like Calvin Ramsey as well, who obviously is like...
Yeah.
We've signed him like in the last couple of years, and he's had obviously very bad injuries and stuff, or he's not been getting into the side because we bought him as like the backup to Trent in future, and then Conor Bradley's just obviously went on loan and he's came in and like took that position. So like obviously if Trent goes then and Bradley becomes the number one, if you like, then Ramsey might have an opportunity, but just based off his injury like problems that he's had, it's going to be difficult for him.
Do you know what's mad is that I can probably name you the same amount of like players that have played for Wigan and Liverpool youth.
Yeah.
like James Berry, who's now at I think he might now be at Stockport or something. He was at Chesterfield for a while. Tello Asgard, I think used to be at Liverpool back in the day, like Liverpool youth, who we've now sold to Luton, and he's doing bits. I think we have Abdi Sharif as well, who was in the kind of youth team a couple of years back. So the crossover in terms of youth teams is insane. But yeah, like in terms of the first team, we've always been like linked with people. So I got told I had a mate who used to cut hair, and he once had used to cut hair for the barbers that used to give out black cards to Liverpool players. I think. And Ben Woodburn came in, and it was on deadline day or something, on the day before deadline day. He was like, "Whoa, where are you going to? Like, have you got any news?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm getting my hair cut now. I'm going to go sign for Wigan on loan." So he calls me. He's like, "Ben Woodburn's going to sign for Wigan," and I was like 16. He was an apprentice barber, and I was like 16, 17, whatever, doing my little Wigan blog. I put out there, like, I had a blog called All Out Attack. I was like, All Out Attack sources say that Ben Woodburn's come into Wigan on loan, got loads of traction. Then the next day, Sky Sports put a thing on their like little transfer centre. Sky Sports sources say that Ben Woodburn's come to Wigan on loan. So then they've nicked my little pull, because otherwise you wouldn't have heard it. Next day, Ben Woodburn signs for Sheffield United on loan. So,
and you're cursing, going, fuck's sake. Like,
it serves Sky Sports for robbing from a teenage journalist at the end of the day.
That's what they have to resort to, fuck's sake.
I know.
Shocking behaviour, I don't know. Right, well, we'll leave it there, lad. Nice one.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Nice one for jumping on. I was going to say, I'll put the link for the... not that you need it, for the Mad That podcast in the description.
So
I'm not going to put the Have a Word one there, because
you can find that.
You don't need any plugs from me on Have a Word, trust me. I'm sure you know about it already. So yeah, go and give Mad That a follow and a listen, or a watch, because it's absolutely class. But yeah, nice one, Harry, for jumping on. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, and thank you for the bevies as well.
No worries at all. Nice one. Nice one to Harry, nice one everyone for watching or listening. And yeah, that was episode 13. We'll be back very soon with another episode. And yeah, nice one. See you all very soon.
I'm Jamie Carragher, and you are listening to the Copite Podcast.